Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, wherever you are. This is Mr. Shakespeare again with you on the 9th of April, 2025, joined as usual by psychic medium and remote viewer, Liz Cross. How are we doing today, Liz?
Oh, great. Thank you. Just remember the backup channel, CTT, listed in the comments down below. Make sure you're subscribed. If this channel ever gets taken down, we will immediately move over to the CTT channel.
Okay, so this is a slightly different probe today. We're going to be talking about advertising on British television in the 80s and 90s. And one of the most famous ones was from Toyota, where their slogan was, "The car in front is a Toyota."
Oh.
Sorry, that's an in-joke between me and Liz. All right, let's carry on with the real thing.
Please, no more cars. No more cars.
Okay.
Oh,
Right, we are going to do, I think you mentioned this on the Discord. We're going to take every industry and we're going to put it on a scale of 1 to 10. And so part of the plan for Trump is to bring back industry um, to the US, which is very industrial age thinking. Bear in mind, we're now in the information age. That's all I'll say on that. Um, so we're going to look at these various industries and see how they have fared over the next 5 and 10 years. So do we want to go 10 years out first and then 5, or 5 and 10, Liz?
yeah, let's go 10. Let's go 10 years out. Please.
Okay, so we'll start with Andrew Carnegie. He was a Scottish industrialist who did rather well, the American regarding American steel, which of course then was used to, build all sorts of things. So we're asking Andrew Carnegie.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I have him here. Actually, one of our Patreon subscribers, she loves to channel Carnegie in her personal readings. So I've got quite a good friendship with Andrew Carnegie. I channeled him a
Right.
lot.
Right. Okay, I didn't know that. All right, fair enough.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to just go through a bunch of industries, um, and we're going to ask him on a scale of 10 to see have they moved back to the USA within, say, 10 years. Now,
Okay.
it doesn't mean we need more, we need to need to qualify this a bit. If we mention one industry and one firm, one company comes back, that's not really indicative. We're trying to find out whether, you know, the sentiment, say the car industry or the bubblegum industry or something like that, we want to know if they're going to come back. I picked on, say, the iPhones. iPhones are not made in the US. They might be designed in California, but they're not made there. Is iPhone production, Apple production coming back? That type of thing. Anyway, we'll start with agriculture.
Okay.
Um, is agriculture coming back to the US on a scale of 1 to 10? If so, 1 being the least likely, 10 being the most likely. What number would Andrew Carnegie say?
What would you say 10 years out for agriculture coming back to the US? A 5.
Okay.
Now,
Sorry.
what he said is that the agriculture that is already US based is going to boom. Okay. That's what
Um,
he's saying to me. They're going to produce more. Those US based agricultural companies, they are definitely going to see an increase in profitability. And I'm asking why? Is that because people are being forced to buy more American products? In a way, yes. Are these tariffs? So I know we're starting out here. I have a theory. And the theory is that the tariffs is they're just another tool like COVID was, right? COVID was a tool. And back when COVID wasn't even on the shores yet, George Duzman and I did a CTT session, and we got very strongly that COVID was here to change the consciousness. And I'm wondering if tariffs are doing the same thing. Are tariffs a tool to make us shed materialism? Yes. Okay. I wondered if that was the case. Now, I won't be gotten rid of completely, but again, this is another shift in consciousness of, are we buying things that we really need, or are we buying things that we really want?
Well, my experience of when I lived in America is most Americans buy things they want. I mean, they buy things they need, but there's a lot of things they want.
Mm-hmm.
So,
I think that those ones are going to be scaled back over the next 2 years. Is
okay.
this due to inflation? Yes, we're going to see what percentage, up to a 20% inflation on goods and services. Uh, is this due? I mean, tariffs are part of it. Yes. And this is really going to squeeze people. Now, we have been probing, Mr. Shakespeare, you and I have been probing this for 3 years now. And we keep getting inflation, double the price come 2040 from where it is now. You can't stop inflation. You've got to try to beat inflation. And for those of you that cannot handle the mind probes and this type of information, look away now. Because a lot of times people are like, oh my God, Liz, this is so negative. It really isn't. It's really about switching your mindset to know what's coming so you can adjust beforehand and be prepared. It looks like we're about to get another 20%, up to 20% inflation. Now, you can't pay attention to the government numbers because they always skew the results and the numbers and the calculations to make it look better than what it actually is. But the reality is it's going to be up to 20%, maybe even slightly more than 20% inflation. So here we go again. Is this going to shed, just to ask this question again, is this to make us grow in our consciousness? Yes, he says, and to shed materialism. I think a lot of people are going to have to shed materialism.
Okay. All right.
Rightio, Mr. Shakespeare. Now
That
what?
was just the first one with agriculture. We have about 30 to do. Okay.
Okay.
So I think we'll probably be finished by about November. Forestry. Let's ask him about forestry.
Forestry?
Yeah, this is on the list that you emailed me. There's the next one, forestry. Is that coming?
Forestry.
How does forestry leave the US? You can't take the trees and chop them down elsewhere, can you?
Is forestry coming back to the US? And on a scale of 0 to 10, what would you give that? Again, it's a 5 rating. Apparently, we do import a lot of wood and a lot of lumber. We do. I believe he's saying from Canada, we do.
Right. Okay. Fishing.
What about fishing? Is that going to be brought back in to the US on a scale of 1 to 10? No, that's a 1 or a 2.
Okay. Mining.
Mining, what do you give that rating on a scale of 1 to 10? About a 4.
Okay. Uh, oil and gas extraction.
Oil and gas extraction, what are you giving that on a scale? Now that's higher, that's like a 6 or a 7.
Automotive manufacturing.
Automotive manufacturing, that's a 5.
Aerospace and defense.
Aerospace and defense. Okay, now that is a 9.
What about construction?
Construction, what is that? That again is a 5. These are very mediocre.
Chemical manufacturing.
Chemical manufacturing. No, that's like a 3 or a 4. It's
Mhm.
almost as if we don't want that here, is what he's saying.
Right. Food and beverage processing.
Food and beverage processing, what is that? That's going to be an 8.
Textiles and apparel.
Textiles and apparel, what is that going to be? Ooh, very low, 1 and 2.
Right. Electronics and semiconductors.
Electronics and semiconductors, ooh, 3.
Shipbuilding.
I'm sorry, which one?
Shipbuilding.
It keeps cutting out. I'm sorry.
Shipbuilding.
I don't know why that's not coming through.
Really? You can't?
Shipbuilding?
Yeah, shipbuilding. Yeah.
Shipbuilding. That's a 3.
Okay. Steel and metal fabrication.
Steel and metal fabrication. That's gonna stay low. That's a 3 or a 4.
Okay. Plastics and rubber products.
Plastics and rubber. Now that's a 7 or an 8 I'm getting. Apparently he says that's easy to move back.
Right. Industrial equipment.
Industrial equipment. That's a 5.
Service-based industries.
The service-based industry. That's a 6.
Retail.
Retail. Is retail going to come back? No, it feels like it's just going to relatively stay the same. Retail. Are we going to buy more American products? Yeah, we're going to be forced into it. We are now going to be forced back into buying American products, is what he's saying.
Wholesale.
Wholesale industry, the wholesale, that's a 4.
Logistics and transportation.
Logistics and transportation. Now that's an 8.
Hospitality and tourism.
Hospitality and tourism. How is that going to be in the future for the US? Are we going to take more holidays here than abroad? Not that we take very, very many abroad compared to other countries. And I see that as going up to a 7 or an 8, where it's previously, or as it is right now, it's about a 5 or a 6. But that will be retracing back to Americans not really being able to, is it affordability? Affordability. Are we going to see more road trips? Yes, we are. Does that mean that we're going to reduce flying at all? No. There will still always be a demand for flying, but you will start to see people, families really back on the road taking family car trips.
Okay. Entertainment and media.
Entertainment and media. No, that's a 7.
Real estate. Real estate.
Real estate. So will people be investing more in US real estate rather than foreign real estate, as in that sector of the public that invest outside? No. No, it's not. They're not going to come back. Actually, I feel that they're going to buy more outside of the US. Why? Because of the lack of affordability. They can buy cheaper property somewhere else.
Mhm. Education.
I'm sorry.
Education.
Education. What? So let's think of it in terms of university on a scale of 1 to 10. Ooh, now university, is going down to a 3.
Mhm. Right. Health, excuse me, healthcare and medical services.
Healthcare and medical service industry. That's an 8.
Financial services, i.e., banking, insurance, investments.
Banking, insurance, investments is on a scale of 1 to 10. That's a 7.
Legal services.
Legal services. Okay, I feel that that's dropping. That's a 4. But is it dropping because it's moving online? You're gonna see more of this online. You're gonna see firms closing or making redundancies. Um, what about going back to the medical care, the medical costs? Are we going to see a shrinking of doctors, an increase or a decrease? No, that's going to shrink. That's going to shrink. Is that because of AI tools? Yes, but apparently, what about getting a lot of so on a scale of 1 to 10, what do we currently have as the rate of getting doctors from abroad at the moment? So that is quite high. Doctors from abroad at the moment, 7 to 8. And is that going to remain high? No, that's going to go down to a 4. So it looks like we will be producing more doctors here.
Okay. Where are we up to? Legal services.
Legal services, that's moving online. That's going to go down to like a 3 or 4.
Consulting.
Consulting. No, consulting is going to be an 8, as in the consulting industry. Do we use international consultants? I mean, we do, but again, that's going to kind of come back.
Okay. Information technology, i.e., IT services.
IT services, that's a 9 for here in the USA.
Good. Telecommunications.
Telecommunications, what is that going to be? Yeah, on a scale of 1 to 10, that's about a 7.
Software development.
Software development, ooh, that's a 5. I feel like these things are manufactured somewhere else, and that is not really going to change. What about like iPhone, the iPhones being developed or cell phones being developed in other countries? Is that going to change? I feel like they will. He's telling me they will move something back here to the US. Will it be iPhone? No. Possibly Android will be moving back to the US. It's just too expensive. So I'm saying, will we still keep buying these phones even though the prices, are they going to increase? Yeah. These phone prices are going to increase by 30 to 40%, he's saying. And will we still continue to buy them? I mean, we will, he says, but at the scale we are now, no. No, we're gonna go down to like a 20%. It's replacing things when we need to instead of when we have to. I'm sorry. Yes, when we want to. Sorry. Replacing things when we need to instead of when we want to.
Okay. Data analysis, analytics, sorry, data analytics.
Data analytics, are we going to, on a scale of 1 to 10? That's a 5. I still feel like that's going to be outsourced.
Okay. Scientific research and development.
Scientific research and development, is that on a scale of 1 to 10? Coming back to the USA? No, that's a 5. It's just going to get more expensive.
Biotech and pharmaceuticals.
Biotech and pharmaceuticals, coming back to, no, that's scoring high. That's an 8.
AI and machine learning.
AI and machine learning for the USA on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 years out. That's a 9.
Hmm. Cybersecurity.
Cybersecurity on a scale of 1 to 10 coming back to the US. That's also a 9.
Publishing.
Publishing on a scale of 1 to 10. No, that's really low. He's given it a 2. Are we going to see like books being published in the no, this is, books are becoming, no, no, that's sort of, they're becoming out of date now. You've got to move into podcasts, audiobooks, online, digital.
Right. Because we're in the information age. Non-governmental organizations, NGOs.
NGOs, on a scale of 1 to 10, moving back to the US in 10 years, that's a 5.
Mhm. Policy and regulatory bodies.
Policy and regulatory bodies on a scale of 1 to 10. That's also a 5. Going back to the NGOs, the amount of money that we give to international charities on a scale of 1 to 10, that is going to be seriously decreased. I'm getting a 3.
Mhm. Uh, think tanks. It's a bit like
What about
NGOs.
think tanks, like global think tanks that we employ for outside of the US? Will that come back to the US? No, no, that's a 2. Those are necessary in order to. So I have to ask this. Are we seeing a reverse in globalism? Yes. But is it going to be a permanent? No. I feel like it's just a slowing down of globalism, but globalism will still forge ahead.
Okay. Well, executive management.
Executive management is, now that's 8. He gave that an 8.
Okay, and the last one is cultural institutions.
Cultural institution. What do you give that? He's giving that another high 8 as well. Okay. So we can now see some of the, what's going to possibly come back. What are we going to spend on in the future, 10 years out? Industry is coming back some. I think it's what he's telling me are the industries that are easy to move back, no problem. But manufacturing, like manufacturing physical products, that's a lot harder. And that is just going to cost more.
And also, there's no real need to do it.
What, to bring it back?
No, as I said to you before, off camera, we're in the information age, not the industrial age. We don't need to bring all that back.
And
What
this is
America,
where,
what
sorry.
America needs to do is to
Mhm.
find new information-based businesses and things like that and become the world leader in that.
That's what the UK is trying to do. We got
Ah.
that with Keir Starmer. That's what Keir Starmer is trying to do.
Hmm. I know, but we also know that he fails miserably, and anybody who's got any sense will go to America. They won't stay in the UK and do that.
But okay, so let's ask this question. Um, Bearing in mind what Keir Starmer is trying to do, because he's trying to bring the UK into this massive IT hub, AI, robotics. He believes that the way forward is to make the UK like this big high-tech productivity center. I'm still getting a no on that. Does that come to the USA? So the USA actually beats out the UK in that.
Of course.
over time.
Well, it makes sense. And the other thing is that, if you start setting up businesses in the UK, the UK at the moment is raising taxes on everything, whereas obviously the Trump administration is trying to reduce the taxes on everything. So capital and money goes where it's treated the best. And if the UK carry on down the same path, you will move. You've got to, why would you set up in the UK? Why? I mean, you just wouldn't, you know.
So
We did get
there
that on the previous probe, actually.
we did, and
Even if
don't
they set
forget.
up in the UK, if they became successful, they would just go to the US.
So there's a conspiracy. I don't know if it's a conspiracy theory, but well, let's just call it a conspiracy theory out there that basically says that Trump and Musk are wiping out government organizations in order to replace them with private organizations, private industry. Basically, you are now going to scrap the Department of Education and you are going to hire a private company to run the Department of Education or to run the IRS and things like that. So let's ask that. Is that actually true that they're trying to deliberately wipe out these government departments in favor of employing private organizations? I'm getting a no on that. Okay. Are we going to see a privatization takeover of a lot of these government organizations? He's saying no. Carnegie is saying no. They will still be government organizations, but some of these, he says, are so badly run that they've had to be scrapped and start over again with a clean slate. But are they still going to be run by the government? Yes. Ultimately, yes, they will be run by the government. So there was a big thing about, Trump is just trying to abolish all of these government organizations so he and his friends can put in their own private companies and take over the building or take over these departments and make them loads of money. So the government are paying out contracts to these private companies to run these government departments. That is a big no. I'm getting a big no. So
Just for the
that
record, I never believed any of that in the first place. That was just absolute nonsense. Sorry.
Well, and they're saying that basically Trump is that the tail end of that conspiracy theory was also that Trump is trying to march the US into communism by doing so. So the rich get richer, the poor get poorer. And what I keep getting back from Spirit is that that is going to be inevitable. It doesn't matter who is in power, that's always the way. That's just a natural process of evolution, that the rich are getting richer, the poor are getting poorer. And again, this idea that as we go out into the future and we end up, as you and I have seen in future probes, where we end up on universal basic income, which is living on the breadline, by the way. Don't think that universal basic income is going to be anything substantial. It is not. Uh, that's going to happen. So let's ask Carnegie, is that going to happen no matter who's in power? Yes, it is. And is that happening because of leadership? Or is that happening because of the information age, AI and robotics? It's more to do with AI and robotics. So that was the other part of that conspiracy theory, or that theory, which is no, Trump's trying to make this a communism and a high powered thing for his friends. Actually, we got the reverse, that his associates, especially with all the markets crashing and everything on the probe that we did yesterday, they're really putting a lot of pressure on Trump about them losing millions, billions, and trillions of dollars
Oh,
in the in their companies because of these tariff policies. And
As I wrote on the Discord today, 94% of all the stocks are held in the US are held by 8%, and they're the ones that are complaining. If you don't have a portfolio, your portfolio is very small, none of this matters to you. In fact, if anything, it'll benefit you as prices come down. It's the guys with the big portfolios. They're the ones that have been getting on to Trump. They're the ones that are seeing massive losses and everything.
you sound really
I
far away
tries
from
to
your
bring
microphone. I'm
down.
sorry. We can't hear
Sorry?
you very well. You're not coming through loud and clear.
Oh, sorry.
There you are. He's
Yeah.
back.
Right.
So let's okay, you say prices are coming down,
No, no,
but
no.
I'm
I
not
said no,
getting
no.
that.
Well, let me read what I put on the Discord. If this is this going public then? This one.
Yes.
Okay. So if you're not on the Patreon, you won't know this. So basically, he's trying to get the market. I'm going to paraphrase my own post. He's trying to get the market down, which basically will cause the Federal Reserve to reduce interest rates, because he has been stuck with, and we've got this from a previous post. He has been stuck with the US debt has either 7 or 9 trillion, depending on who you listen to, of debt, short-term debt that has to be rolled over this year. Now, obviously, if you have to roll over debt, whether it's a mortgage or whatever, and you need to roll it over, refi it out, you want to do it at the lowest possible cost. So what he's trying to do is he's trying to get people, he's panicking people in the stock market and throwing curveballs and doing all sorts of things, because the stock market is wildly overpriced anyway, so that people will come out of that and go into the security and safety and the boredomness of treasuries. If people start buying treasuries again, then the Federal Reserve can then start seriously reduce interest rates. He would love them to go back to zero or nearly zero, in which case then he can roll over the debt, get it rolled over, almost 0%. Now, whether he'll be able to achieve that or not, I don't know, you know. But bear in mind that all this whining and moaning is coming from the uber rich. They are the ones that are being really punished or really taking the hit, not the average guy in the street. If prices start coming down as a result of this, if agriculture and farming and food come down because of, say, the tariffs and retaliatory tariffs from other countries, and Americans have to sell food to Americans as opposed to anybody else, prices will come down, food prices will come down. It's already had an effect. I mean, some of the prices like eggs is a headline one that's already started to come down. So people should look forward to paying less for things if this works out. Yeah.
Okay. Let's ask this question, right? I understand where you're coming from. I do. But, this is what we do here. We test these theories out.
We do.
So let's ask the founding fathers, are we going to see, if we have a resurgence of the US agriculture manufacturing here in the US, which we are going to have a bit of, okay, not on the scale that Trump wants, but certainly over time, as we have gotten from Carnegie, that it will, the ones that are already here will start to boom. Are they going to reduce the food prices? I'm getting a no.
Okay.
Not no. And what worries me about the tariffs is when people get used to paying a particular price for something, it's very difficult, even though the tariffs may be, negotiated down. If you're socking it to the consumer at, say, a 30% increase, and people are going to pay that anyway, these companies are very reluctant to lower the price. Why should we lower it if somebody's going to pay the 30% increase? So let's ask this question. If there are negotiations with the tariffs over time, and the goods, people have been paying for these goods and services at a higher rate, will the corporations lower it? See, I'm getting a no. No. So I understand. Let's ask Trump. So let's ask Trump. Let's mind probe him. I know everybody's going to say, Liz, oh my God, you're mind probing Trump every day. But this is just so important. And he's just doing so much. And the more we know, the better prepared we are. And also, don't forget, Mr. Reality is out sick. So all the fun stuff like the rock and rollers and the old time photo and all that. I mean, hopefully he'll be back in 2 or 3 weeks. Anyway, but let's ask Trump, are you deliberately trying to crash the stock market? He said it's inevitable. It's inevitable that the stock market is going down. The panic and the fear. Is that what you thought would happen? Some. Did you know that it was going to happen on this scale? No, not at this level. People are panicking and having a lot of fear. He says in his personal thoughts, feelings, and opinions that it's unnecessary fear. But I'm saying when people think that they may have another 10 to 20% inflation when they're already struggling, how do you account for that? And he's basically just coming back like it is what it is. I don't know what to say about that, really.
I'm wondering whether, there's obviously a big backlash against Trump and what he's doing. So I'm wondering if there are bad actors jumping on the back of what he's doing, of spreading fear and everything else, so that the market will crash down even more, perhaps. I don't know.
Well, that's a good question. Do you believe, we'll ask the founding fathers, do you believe that there's people working in the background, or companies or organizations or political parties working in the background trying to put out fear like more than necessary in order to crash the markets? They're saying no, this is just a natural consequence of what's going on. People don't like uncertainty. They don't like, you know, not knowing whether they're going to have jobs from one day to the next. They want to know that their bills are paid. There's a lot of fear about whether or not people can actually even still pay their bills. What is this going to do to the housing market in the US? Are we going to see prices come down? Are we going to see prices come down? I think prices are going to come down slightly, but again, it's going to stall out the buying and selling of property as far as mortgages are concerned. Now, cash buyers, you can't really stop them, but you're going to see mortgages slow down. So the real estate market is going to slow down.
Right.
Are prices going to come down? Only slightly. Only slightly. When this blows over, will we go back to normal? No, no, because it feels as if, again, going into like a higher consciousness about what's going on, it really is to shake out the materialism, you know? Let's ask the universal consciousness. Do you believe that we have become far too materialistic here on the earth plane? And the universal consciousness is coming back saying yes, absolutely. Is this a natural progression of evolution? I feel it is. I'm getting yes. Is this also contributing to the dissolution of the middle class? Yes, it is. You know, we put out that video about the dissolution of the middle class and people freaked out, Mr. Shakespeare. They did not want to hear about it. But as we can see, as you know, weeks are going by and we're getting more and more information about how this is going to work. It is, you are going to see a bigger rich poor divide. You are going to see the middle class being taken down. Now, you'll have your upper middle class that will manage to somehow maintain the upper middle class status, but your middle to low people in the middle class, they're going to be shaken out. They're going down into they're going to go down into the lower class.
Right. Okay.
What can people do about that?
Um,
Mr. Shakespeare. He's gone to sleep.
no, I have not. What can people do? Okay. Get involved in cryptos that have a use case and buy those. Those are the ones that will survive. Those are the ones that will do very good. Bitcoin is an exception because it has its own set of rules, but apart from that, find, research, and learn about cryptos, which are part of the information age. That's part of the information age that have a use case, that have an actual real, usage, and those are the ones that you should invest in. Not financial advice, but that's what you should do. That's what I'm going to do.
To beat this inflation again. Let's
Well, yeah,
ask.
because inflation, if inflation is at 20%, say, and your cryptos are inflating at, 60 or 80 or 100%, then you're beating inflation, aren't you?
Okay. So let's ask this. Would somebody buying into Bitcoin, would that be a good product to beat inflation? Yes, it is. Because it may not look like it right now in the short term, but in the long term, it outpaces inflation. And that's what you've got to do. You've got to find things that will outpace inflation.
Yeah,
Do we
yeah.
see people going back into buying American treasuries and bonds? We do, but it's a very small percentage. So on a scale of 1 to 10, how much do we see like the average investor going back into bonds and treasuries? It's a very, very small percentage. We are so heavily reliant, is what I'm getting, on international investment, countries, governments investing into the bonds and treasuries here.
Right. Okay, I think this is long enough, this one.
Yeah, it is. But I mean, again, you just have to prepare yourself. You're not, just because you don't like the information doesn't mean you're going to stop what's going on. Okay. A lot of people, they like to bury their head in the sand. They don't want to hear what is coming down the pike. It's scary for them. Um, just by ignoring the information doesn't mean it's not going to happen, right?
Mm,
And a lot of people like to operate like that. I would encourage those people to go to the CTT channel and start working your way through the videos and fixing that energy field. You can have a peaceful existence knowing this information because you plan ahead of time. If you know that in 2040, from where we are now, that everything is going to be double the cost of what it is, and you had that information and you chose to face reality, and how am I going to prepare in order to adapt to those changes? Well, guess what? You're one step ahead of most people. And that's how you have to view this information. Certainly, we talk about this on the Discord. We talk about this extensively, and we prepare ourselves. And also, kudos to you, Mr. Shakespeare, because your charts are absolutely spot on. I have to give you congratulations and credit where it's due. Your astrological transit charts that you post on the Discord every month have been so accurate. It's unbelievable, right? It's fantastic. So thank you for that.
okay.
All right, we'll stop this one here. Thank you, Carnegie. Yeah, he just gave us a wave. Bye.